Hello children, welcome back to the realm. We will be doing some ELA through CommonLit. I am Mrs. Ryder, as some of you may know. Let's go ahead and get into it. So we do have a learning target today. I can apply critical skills to a written text to find deeper meaning. So today in my classroom, in your classroom, this is a digital classroom. You are actually in a classroom, I don't know. Anyway, this is what you are doing today. This is the focus today. This is your learning target. So being able to apply critical skills to a written text to find deeper meaning, that is what you are doing today. We are going to be doing that with a CommonLit piece. Let's go ahead and look at some success criteria. Before I tell you your success criteria, let's really quickly talk about what success criteria is, because that is it's important for you to know. Success criteria are like the stepping stones, okay? They are the checklist. It's the checklist for your learning target. So if you can put a check mark beside this one, that one, and that one, all of your success criteria is checked off. That means you have met your learning target. Okay, it's to help you see, have I met my learning target? So remember, your learning target. This is your success criteria for the learning target you had, which is right here. I can apply critical thinking skills to a written text to find deeper meaning. This is the success criteria for it. I can annotate a text for key details and evidence. I can make an inference when answering during reading questions. I can respond to questions using information from the text. Okay, if you can do all three of those things by the end of this video, then you have met your learning target. So that is the goal. That is what I need you to do today. So with that being said, I need you to focus. All eyes on me. Mouth is not working. Mouth don't work. Your mouth don't work. Not working. Don't use it. Shh. Only your ears are working. So, everyone in the realm, let's focus. Let's get into it. So, I want to quickly touch base on two terms. Two terms you are going to need to really understand today, and that is key details and evidence. As it pertains means relating to, as it relates to literary work. So we hear key details, we hear evidence, and we think expository technique, okay? But expository techniques also find their way into narrative pieces. We are going to be reading a narrative piece today, one that is more on the narrative side of reading. And we are going to find a few expository technique words like key details and evidence. So let's talk about that first before we get into our reading for today. So eyes are up here. You are listening, not talking. Let's listen. Key details. Key details are the moments that make the story worth reading. Without them, just a bunch of characters are standing around doing nothing, and that's not a good story. That's weird. That's awkward, okay? So as you read, key details help you kind of spy on the characters, look at the characters and understand their choices. It helps you step into the setting like you're actually there, okay? It helps you follow the plot. The plot is all the events. It's the story, okay? Because nobody likes being confused. It helps you feel the drama as conflict begins to unfold. And remember, conflict, my darlings, my children, conflict is a struggle, a problem. Without a conflict, it's not much of a story, right? Okay, so instead of hunting for boring facts, I want you to ask yourself, when thinking about key details, when thinking about meaning in a story, which details are actually helping me understand what's going on here? Because without key details, there really is no story, okay? And we are going to be looking for a lot of key details. That kind of makes me go into the next part, which is evidence. Evidence is all about proof. Evidence is proof. So, let's make a little scenario, okay? A scenario is a hypothetical situation, okay? So let me do a scenario for you. You walk into the lunchroom, grab your cheeseburger. The pickles are gone. Pickles are gone. So you go up to your friend. Hey, friend, not friend anymore, not friend for right now for 5 minutes. You took my pickles. And your friend says, I did not. Okay, well, this is time for some evidence. We need evidence. We need proof that friend, that not friend for 5 minutes until we figure this out, that they took your pickles. Okay, evidence is the proof that backs up what you're saying. It shows you're not just making things up. We need evidence when we are reading. When you get a question, in what we are doing today, we are reading something and there will be questions about things that happen in the story. You need to be able to answer those questions, but have evidence from the text that show you're right. Okay? As you read, evidence might be something a character says, an action a character takes, a specific moment from the story. So instead of just saying, you took my pickles, you say, I saw you open my burger. I saw you take the pickles, and I saw you eat them. Okay? That is more evidence-based, okay? That's evidence. So when reading, always ask what in the story proves this, because without evidence, you're just making pickle accusations, okay? So let's keep going. We are going to be reading a CommonLit piece called Inside Out. It is written by a Mexican-American writer and professor in Santa Clara, California, and I think you are going to really enjoy it. But most importantly, even if you do not enjoy it, you are going to learn from it, and we are going to hit that learning target today, okay? So, all you need is a pencil. So listen, all you need is a pencil, and you need the Inside Out CommonLit worksheet. If you can't really see the worksheet very well right here, this is what it looks like, my little darlings. Inside Out. Inside Out. I'm going to take just a moment to and let you get your pencil. Getting out a pencil, children, is really not magic, okay? It's pretty simple. It's not science. It's not anything crazy, okay? What you do is you take out the pencil and you get ready to use it. It doesn't take a long time to get a pencil. If you don't have a pencil, quietly ask for one. We need to get started. It doesn't take 5 minutes to get a pencil, right? It takes under a minute, I think. So let's take out a pencil, get this worksheet, and let's get started. I'll take a moment so that you can gather yourselves. When I come back into view, I'm going to expect you to be ready, okay? So let's go, let's go. All right, so you should have that pencil. You should have that worksheet. If you do not have that worksheet, if it's still being passed out to you, I need your eyes to be up here and listen to my expectations, because there are expectations when reading this, okay? If there is an adult in the classroom, they will know too that these are the expectations, okay? These are the expectations you need to meet while I do this CommonLit piece with you. Okay, so 1, follow along with your pencil. Children, this is a strategy. This is a comprehension strategy. So when you are following along with your pencil, that is actually a reading strategy. I need you to do it. That is not, can I get you to do that? No, this is a demand, okay? I am telling you to do it. This is a reading strategy. When you go over the words with me, with your pencil, that helps you figure out what some words might sound like, because perhaps you don't know what the word, I don't know, let's see, a flannel. You didn't know how to pronounce that, but if you run the pencil over it when I say the word, then you know what it sounds like, okay? So it is a reading strategy to go over the words with me with a pencil. It's not busy work, it's a reading strategy. So follow along with your pencil. I need you to do that. Make annotations. Well, what kind of annotations? Well, first, annotations are during reading note-taking piece, like a note-taking strategy, right? So you make little notes to the side, you circle words, you highlight words, you underline words. This is specifically the kind of annotations I want you to do today during this piece. So you are going to circle unfamiliar words, right? We're going to circle unfamiliar words. That means words that you've never seen before, you don't know what it means. Circle those. I want you to star important information. Important information would be like names of characters, okay? Specific names of places, okay? Important information, okay? And finally, underline important events that happen in the story, okay? Because perhaps those important events will serve as evidence later. I don't know, perhaps. But important events that happen, important things that happen, I want you to underline those things. Okay, when I'm reading, this is very important. When I am reading, you are silent and you are listening, okay? You cannot follow along with me. You cannot comprehend the words coming out of my mouth when there's words coming out of your mouth, okay? So I need you listening and I need you following along, okay? That's not a suggestion. That is a command, my little darlings. So you are going to follow along with me in the realm, okay? So, without further ado, we are going to begin reading Inside Out. Again, this is a piece written by Francisco Jimenez. I may have mispronounced that last word. I've never seen it before, so forgive me if I mispronounce that. But this is written by a Mexican-American writer and professor in Santa Clara, California. That's in the western part of the United States. His stories are influenced by his experiences working in a migrant labor camp as a child. That's incredible. That's whoa. I'm sure he has quite a story to tell, or many stories to tell. So in this piece, I'm going to go ahead and tell you there are 2 vocabulary words. I'm going to say both of them. I won't define them at this time, but I do want to make you aware of the vocabulary words we have. We have emerge. Emerge is E-M-E-R-G-E, and it's pronounced emerge. Emerge. We have gesture. Gesture. That word is spelled G-E-S-T-U-R-E, gesture. We are going to talk about those words when we get to them in the story, but for now, let's go ahead and get started. So, everyone, pencil out. We are starting at paragraph 1. I am going to be reading. You are going to be following along. You are going to do great as long as you follow expectations and instructions that I just gave you. Remember, your mouth is not working, only mine. Your ears are working. Okay? Let's go ahead and get started. Paragraph 1. You are listening to Inside Out. I remember being hit on the wrist with a 12-inch ruler because I did not follow directions in class, Roberto answered in a mildly angry tone when I asked him about his first year of school. But how could I? He continued. The teacher gave them in English. So what did you do? I asked, rubbing my wrists. I always guessed what the teacher wanted me to do, and when she did not use the ruler on me, I knew I had guessed right, he responded. Some of the kids made fun of me when I tried to say something in English and got it wrong, he went on. I had to repeat first grade. I wish I had not asked him, but he was the only one in the family, including Papa and Mama, who had attended school. I walked away. I did not speak or understand English either, and I already felt anxious. Besides, I was excited about going to school for the first time that following Monday. It was late January, and we had just returned a week before from Corcoran, where my family picked cotton. We settled in Tent City, a labor camp owned by Sheehy Strawberry Farms, located about 10 miles east of Santa Maria. On our first day of school, Roberto and I got up early. I dressed in a pair of overalls, which I hated because they had suspenders, and a flannel checkered shirt, which Mama had bought at the Goodwill store. As I put on my cap, Roberto reminded me that it was bad manners to wear a hat indoors. I thought of leaving it at home so that I would not make the mistake of forgetting to take it off in class, but I decided to wear it. Papa always wore a cap, and I did not feel completely dressed for school without it. Okay, I'm going to pause. I went on an extra paragraph, but I want you to pause and look at your paper. You should see this section right over here that says paragraphs 1 through 4, my darlings. It says think and share. So I want you to write a one-sentence response here to answer the question I'm about to ask you, and it's the question that you see here. Okay, it says, why does the narrator wish he had not asked Roberto about school. So think about the evidence, okay? Think about what is said, okay? Think about what the characters are talking about. Why does the narrator wish he had not asked Roberto about school? I'm going to give you just 1 minute. 1 minute. I'll even put a timer on the board for you children. Please answer that. So I'm going to ask it again for you. Why does the narrator wish he had not asked Roberto about school? Think about all the things that Roberto said in the first paragraph. Gosh, he remembers being hit on the wrist with a 12-inch ruler because he did not follow directions in class. Okay? And think about the context. There's something about this that I feel that you could probably infer. Remember, when we infer something, we are making an educated guess about something. Why does the narrator wish he had not asked Roberto about school? Why do you think he wished he didn't ask him about it? Just a few seconds. Quickly write that down with your pencil that you have had out for a while. My darlings. Wonderful. So let's keep going on. Even if you are not done writing, I want us to keep going. We'll come back to the answers at another time, but let's go ahead and keep going, children, because there is a lot going on here. And remember, don't forget to annotate, okay? Do not forget to star important information, so starring names. We already have a name here, okay? Places. Make sure you're underlining events that seem important. Circle words you do not know, okay? So let's keep going. We are on paragraph 6. On our way out to catch the school bus, Roberto and I said goodbye to Mama. Papa had already left to look for work, either topping carrots or thinning lettuce. So there's a little small number beside lettuce. Okay, let's take a look at the bottom of the paper because that's going to tell us what that kind of means. You may have never heard of thinning lettuce, so that means the process of removing smaller plants to make room for the other plants to grow bigger. Interesting. So if you didn't know what that meant, it showed you right there at the bottom. So whenever there's a small number, okay, beside a word or phrase that you don't recognize, take a look at the bottom and it'll tell you what it means, okay? Mama stayed home to take care of Trampita and to rest because she was expecting another baby. We're on paragraph 7, so make sure you are following along with your pencils, darlings. When the school bus arrived, Roberto and I climbed in and sat together. I took the window seat and, on the way, watched endless rows of lettuce and cauliflower whiz by. The furrows that came up to the 2-lane road looked like giant legs running alongside us. The bus made several stops to pick up kids, and with each stop, the noise inside got louder. Some kids were yelling at the top of their lungs. I did not know what they were saying. I was getting a headache. Roberto had his eyes closed and was frowning. I did not disturb him. I figured he was getting a headache too. By the time we got to Main Street School, the bus was packed. The bus driver parked in front of the red brick building and opened the door. We all poured out. Roberto, who had attended the school the year before, accompanied me to the main office, where we met the principal, Mr. Sims, a tall, red-headed man with bushy eyebrows and hairy hands. He patiently listened to Roberto, who, using the little English he knew, managed to enroll me in the first grade. Mr. Sims walked to my classroom. I liked it as soon as I saw it because, unlike our tent, it had wooden floors, electric lights, and heat. It felt cozy. He introduced me to my teacher, Miss Scalapino, who smiled, repeating my name, Francisco. So we're getting a lot of names, so make sure you are starring names, okay, because that's important information. It was the only word I understood the whole time she and the principal talked. They repeated it each time they glanced at me. After he left, she showed me to my desk, which was at the end of the row of desks closest to the windows. There were no other kids in the room yet. I sat at my desk and ran my hand over its wooden top. It was full of scratches and dark, almost black, ink spots. I opened the top, and inside were a book, a box of crayons, a yellow ruler, a thick pencil, and a pair of scissors. To my left, under the windows, was a dark wooden counter the length of the room. On top of it, right next to my desk, was a caterpillar in a large jar. It looked just like the ones I had seen in the fields. It was yellowish green with black bands, and it moved very slowly without making any sound. I was about to put my hand in the jar to touch the caterpillar when the bell rang. All the kids lined up outside the classroom door and then walked in quietly and took their seats. Some of them looked at me and giggled. Embarrassed and nervous, I looked at the caterpillar in the jar. I did this every time someone looked at me. Pause. Let's look over here to where you see these, the paragraphs 10 through 11, find evidence and write. That's what I want you to look at this time. Let's talk about it. So paragraph 10 through 11, let's find some evidence. Remember, that's a key term that we talked about before we started reading. So, part A of this piece, find evidence. Highlight, if you don't have a highlighter, you can underline. Highlight 2 descriptions that reveal Francisco's thoughts about the caterpillar, okay? I wonder why the caterpillar is a focus here. It probably symbolizes something or makes Francisco feel something or connect to something in some way. I wonder what. So highlight or underline 2 descriptions that reveal Francisco's thoughts about the caterpillar, okay? So 2 things should be underlined or highlighted, okay? Next, I want you to write. Okay, and when we write in ELA, we write in complete sentences, and we start with a capital letter and end with punctuation. Punctuation would be a period, okay, or a question mark, or exclamation point. But this is formal writing. A formal answer should be ended in a period, okay? So this should end in a period, start with a capital letter, and whenever we use someone's names like, I don't know, Francisco, we start with a capital letter because that is a proper noun, okay? So, please remember those grammar rules. They are very easy to remember, don't forget. So, why is the caterpillar important to Francisco during his first moments at school? I want you to write your answer there. Write your answer there. Why is the caterpillar important to Francisco during his first moments at school? Let me tell you, you're going to answer the question, and then you're going to tell me why you got that. Remember, proof. Okay, you can't just accuse someone of stealing pickles off your cheeseburger. Give me proof. How do you know in the text, okay, that is the answer? Where does it say in the text that is the answer? Or at least, how can you infer that is the answer based off of something in the text? I'm going to give you just a moment to write. So 1 minute. I'm going to repeat what you're doing right now. You are highlighting or underlining 2 descriptions that reveal Francisco's thoughts about the caterpillar. And then you are going to write. Okay, you're going to write. This can be 1 to 3 sentences long as you can answer the question and give me evidence from the text that backs it up. So why is the caterpillar important to Francisco during the first moments at school? Okay? Why? Why do you think that this little caterpillar in this jar, in this classroom, why is it important to Francisco during his first moments at this school? Interesting. You are going to give me an answer in complete sentences, and you're going to back it up with evidence. Remember, evidence is proof. Evidence is proof. How do you know something? Give me proof. Answer it, then give me the evidence. Okay? All right. So, if you are still working on that, that's okay. Just stop for a moment so that we can keep going. You can come back to these questions in just a moment, okay? But we do need to keep going. I see that it says partner reading. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to be reading, and you're still going to be following along with a pencil. So we are starting at paragraph 12. Paragraph 12, my darlings. All right. With your pencil, follow along. Miss Scalapino started speaking to the class, and I did not understand a word she was saying. The more she spoke, the more anxious I became. By the end of the day, I was very tired of hearing Miss Scalapino talk because the sounds made no sense to me. I thought that perhaps by paying close attention, I would begin to understand, but I did not. I only got a headache. And that night, when I went to bed, I heard her voice in my head. So at this point, I feel that all my students can make an inference, okay? If not earlier, now you can make an inference about this character. A protagonist is the main character of a story, and it seems that our protagonist, the character that we are following in the story, is a boy named Francisco, okay? I want you to think in your minds, why can he not understand his teacher? In your mind, think about why he cannot understand his teacher. Now, in 3 seconds, I'm going to reveal something to you. An inference that I made. Perhaps, 1, he, 2, cannot, 3, speak the language. Okay, perhaps he speaks another language, which is why it's very difficult. This is all very difficult for him because he does not speak the language that these people speak at this school. Okay, he speaks another language, so this is very hard. Now a lot of things are making sense. Okay, let's keep going. Paragraph 13. For days I got headaches from trying to listen until I learned a way out. When my head began to hurt, I let my mind wander. Sometimes I imagined myself flying out of the classroom and over the fields where Papa walked and landing next to him and surprising him. But when I daydreamed, I continued to look at the teacher and pretend I was paying attention because Papa told me it was disrespectful not to pay attention, especially to grown-ups. And that's true. Are you paying attention? You should be. Good, you should be. Let's keep going. Now I'll keep going. Paragraph 14. It was easier when Miss Scalapino read to the class from a book with illustrations because I made up my own stories in Spanish. Okay, so he is a Spanish speaker. Okay, based on the pictures. She held the book with both hands above her head and walked around the classroom to make sure everyone got a chance to see the pictures, most of which were of animals. I enjoyed looking at them and making up stories, but I wished I understood what she was reading. In time, I learned some of my classmates' names. The one I heard the most, and therefore learned first, was Curtis. Remember, star important information like names and places. Curtis was the biggest, strongest, and most popular kid in the class. Everyone wanted to be his friend and to play with him. He was always chosen captain when the kids formed teams. Since I was the smallest kid in the class and did not know English, I was chosen last. I preferred to hang around Arthur, one of the boys who knew a little Spanish. During recess, he and I played on the swings, and I pretended to be a Mexican movie star. I'm not really sure how to say that name. I'm going to be quite honest with you. Like George Negrete or Pedro Infante? I did my best. If it wasn't great, I'm terribly sorry. But let's move on, because this isn't about my pronunciation, it's about your learning. All right, riding a horse and singing the corridos we often heard on the car radio. I sang them to Arthur as we swung back and forth, going as high as we could. But when I spoke to Arthur in Spanish and Miss Scalapino heard me, she said, "No!" with body and soul. Her head turned left and right 100 times a second, and her index finger moved from side to side as fast as a windshield wiper on a rainy day. So that's super fast. "English, English," she repeated. Arthur avoided me whenever she was around. Man, all right. That kind of hurt my heart. Go to this side of the page where you see these questions. Okay? I'm going to read them to you. Look at paragraph 16 through 17. Turn and talk. How do the interactions with Arthur and Miss Scalapino shape Francisco's self-identity? Okay, so how he identifies in himself, his self-awareness, his persona, okay, his personality. How does it shape who he is really what that's asking. So while I'm not going to have you turn and talk at this time, I'm going to have you write your answer in 1 to 2 sentences, complete sentences with capitalization, capitalized names, and have a period at the end. Those are my expectations with writing, because you write with formality, because this is an academic this is an academic place. So you are going to write formally and academically. So complete sentence, written clearly, capitalize what needs to be capitalized, like names, first letter of the first word of the sentence, specific places, if they have a name, that's what I need, and periods at the end, please. You are going to answer that question. Next, you're going to go down and do the same thing, but with a different question. What do Francisco's reactions... Oh, actually, we're going to wait to answer that one, because that's on paragraph 19 through 20, so hold off on that. We're just going to focus on paragraph 16 through 17. I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer that. So as some of you are writing, I'm going to ask the question again so that it is nice and clear for all of you. How do the interactions with Arthur and Miss Scalapino shape Francisco's self-identity? Okay, so self-identity is who he is, okay, his persona, who he is as a person. How does it shape him? Okay, the interactions between Arthur and his teacher. Okay, Arthur, he seems to like Arthur a lot because that's one of the boys that knows a little bit of Spanish. But did Miss Scalapino like that they were talking Spanish? I mean, she yelled, "No! English, English!" I would say probably not so much. So how do the interactions between Arthur and Miss Scalapino, how does that affect him as a person? How does it shape him? How does it shape him? Make him who he is. All right, let's keep going. So if you're not done writing, I need you to stop for a moment and let's just keep going for now. Okay? So we are on paragraph 18. Paragraph 18, follow with your pencil, please. That is a reading strategy and a requirement for this assignment. So let's keep going. Often during recess, I stayed with the caterpillar. Sometimes it was hard to spot him because he blended in with the green leaves and twigs. Every day I brought him leaves from the pepper and cypress trees that grew on the playground. Just in front of the caterpillar, lying on the top of the cabinet, was a picture book of caterpillars and butterflies. I went through it, page by page, studying all the pictures and running my fingers lightly over the caterpillars and the bright wings of the butterflies and the many patterns of them. I knew caterpillars turned into butterflies because Roberto had told me. But I wanted to know more. I was sure information was in the words written underneath each picture in large black letters. I tried to figure them out by looking at the pictures. I did this so many times that I could close my eyes and see the words, but I could not understand what they meant. My favorite time in school was when we did art, which was every afternoon after the teacher had read to us. Since I did not understand Miss Scalapino when she explained the art lessons, she let me do whatever I wanted. I drew all kinds of animals, but mostly birds and butterflies. I sketched them in pencil and then colored them using every color in my crayon box. Miss Scalapino even tacked one of my drawings up on the board for everyone to see. After a couple of weeks, it disappeared, and I did not know how to ask where it had gone. Go back to the side here. Paragraphs 19 through 20. That was sad. Now I want you to answer this question the same way you answered it up here in complete sentence, capitalization, punctuation required, okay? So what do Francisco's reactions to the picture book illustrate about his experience at school? When it says illustrate, you think drawing, right? So this is really asking, what do Francisco's reactions to the picture book show about his experience at school? How does it show his experience at school? I'm going to give you just a moment. Take a minute to write your answer. What does this reveal about what he's going through at school? Okay, how is his school life going? What does his reaction to this little book, this picture book with caterpillars, how does this show us how he feels and how he is experiencing this school? Okay, it seems to me that he feels like an outsider, okay, and he so deeply wants to not be an outsider, right? So I'm just kind of saying that to help you with this question, to really help you think in the right direction when it comes to answering this question. So take some time. Remember, when you answer a question, you need to have some proof. Remember, we don't accuse people of stealing our pickles. We got proof that they stole pickles. So how can you prove what you said is right? All right, I'm just going to give you 1 minute more for that one. 1 minute more for this question. What do Francisco's reactions to the picture book illustrate about his experience at school? So illustrate is a fancy word for saying show. Show his experience at school. If you are done answering that question, make sure this question is done as well, the question above that. How do their interactions with Arthur and Miss Scalapino shape Francisco's self-identity? Okay, so these two questions, I'm wanting you to complete these two questions. Again, how do the interactions with Arthur and Miss Scalapino shape Francisco's self-identity? So how he sees himself, not really how he sees himself, but the way he is, his persona, who he is. How does it shape him as a person? And then what do Francisco's reactions to the picture book illustrate about his experience at school? All right, children. We are now on paragraph 21, and you should see independent reading. Independent reading. Independent reading is when you are reading on your own. Okay, you, and you. But you, maybe you're alone, but I think you're a class. When all of you are reading alone, that's independent reading, okay? So what I want you to do at this time is I want you to independently read, but let me give you some guidelines and some reminders. When we are independently reading, we are minding our own business. MYOB, mind your own business. Okay, so that means your eyes are on your paper. okay? You don't need to look at the person beside you, behind you, in front of you, anywhere. If you need any help at all, you raise your hand for a teacher to assist you, okay? That is the expectation in school, in this school, and every school, okay? So independent reading is your own reading. You are reading, okay, on your own. Now, as you are reading, I want you to continue, bless my soul, I want you to continue making annotations. Star important things, so names, star the name of places. I want you to underline important events. I want you to circle words you don't know. And as you are reading, you need to be answering the questions to the side. And if it tells you to highlight again, you can always underline. Okay, so you are reading, annotating as you read, and you are answering questions to the side. That is the expectation. So the sides of your reading should not be blank. Okay, so when you are done reading, because you're going to read the rest of this story on your own. I know it says whole class reading. We're not going to be able to get to that because we're already at a time where I cannot continue the story. When you are done reading the rest of the story, you are going to have some independent practice. Independent means you do it alone, okay? So for the rest of the class period, this is going to all be independent reading, independent work, independent practice. So you do not need the person beside you, in front of you, or behind you. This is all you, baby, all about you. So make it about you and not anybody else, okay? You're going to have these multiple choice questions, and you are going to answer them. Yes, you are. You're going to answer them. A, B, C, D. Yep. You're going to circle the right answers, and then you're going to move on with your day. Your final task, my darlings, your final task. At the very end, we are going to see this. This is a written response page. You're going to be given a prompt, and you are going to answer it. I'm going to tell you right now in this video how I want you to do this, okay? How I want you to conquer this written response. First of all, before I say anything, I expect complete sentences. I expect punctuation, so periods at the end of sentences, commas when necessary, okay? I expect capitalization of names, capitalization of the first word of every sentence, okay? That's the expectation. Now that you know the very minimum expectations, I'm going to tell you how to answer this. I'm going to tell you what the prompt is and how to answer this. So, your prompt. What do the metaphors of the caterpillar and butterfly reveal about Francisco's experience? Okay, so the butterfly and the caterpillar have a deeper meaning in this story. I'm going to give you a clue. Perhaps it has something to do with comfort and transformation. Okay? Perhaps. Going on. These are the requirements in answering the question. Make sure your response is strong by starting with a claim that clearly answers all parts of the prompt. Remember, a claim is what you believe written as a statement. You don't start with I think, you don't start with I believe, you make it a fact. You say the metaphors of the caterpillar and butterfly reveal Francisco's experience through, and you tell me, okay? You give me a factual way of saying what you think, which is a claim. A claim is your stance. It's what you believe, but it's written as a statement. Like it's a fact, okay? Include evidence and reasoning to support your claim. Remember, evidence, that is your proof, okay? And then reason with me, connect the two. That's what the reasoning does. Okay, this is the proof because this is how it connects to the claim, okay? This is how it connects to my answer. Finally, incorporate. Incorporate means include, okay? Incorporate transition words and phrases to compare and contrast ideas. So compare and contrast is a text structure, okay? So while cats are very independent creatures, They can also be very social, okay? That's kind of a compare and contrast statement. Or dogs are very loyal, but cats are not so loyal for the most part. I don't really know if that's true. My cat is pretty loyal. Actually, I take that back. I don't really know if she's that loyal. But compare and contrast statements. So transition words that would go with compare and contrast. While, but, although, those are transition words for compare and contrast. Okay? On the other hand is another little phrase you could use. So also make sure to incorporate relevant unit vocabulary in your writing. So some vocabulary that you saw in this reading would be gesture. A gesture is like waving or wagging that finger, okay? A movement, okay? And then the other one is emerge. That means to come up from the surface, okay? When Mrs. Ryder emerges onto the screen, okay? Emerge. So, that is what you are doing here. Should this be one sentence? Absolutely not. You're writing a claim. I'm going to ask for at least 2 pieces of evidence that's strong, that supports your claim, and I need a closing statement. So, at the bare minimum, this should be about 5 sentences, okay? At the minimum, bare minimum, okay? Really, I should see about 7 to 8 sentences for it to be strong, all right? So, some quick reminders. The rest of this story you are reading independently, okay? You are reading independently. Once you have completed the reading, after you have completed annotating, after you have completed answering the questions to the side on each page, you're going to do those multiple choice questions. And then you are going to complete the written response on the last page. Okay? This is all independent work. That means your mouth does not work. If you have any questions, any need for assistance, my darlings, you raise your hand, because that is the expectation in the classroom. In the realm of Ryder, that is what we do. We raise our hands if we need something, if we need assistance of any kind. Now, I am going to ask that you begin. Please remember my expectations. This is a school. There are expectations. You are to follow them. See you next time.